we passed the 100,000 prize money barrier this year. So Henry Caruso's 5th in player value. After they had won the gold medal, it was in 2021. He was voted sexiest man of Latvia.
We had a whole new player.
So we've been flirting with Justin for kind of 2 years now.
During the broadcast in Macau, Kyle Montgomery said GM of the year. Whoever got Justin Pierce signed, so that'd be you.
Welcome to the Front Office, the show where we take you behind the scenes of Princeton 3x3 and dive into the world of FIBA 3x3 pro basketball.
I'm not having a great fantasy season. The one team I'm doing like...
Oh yeah, I played you this week. I beat you this week.
My team is in shambles. And I don't think I drafted well to begin with.
Your team on paper is good. You got Kelsey, you got Saquon, like your team.
But Kelsey, they don't use him. Like he's done. Like he's not a fantasy player anymore. He's still gonna be. He's like Gronkowski, right? Like he might have a couple big games. They're kind of saving him for the playoffs.
He was good yesterday. They got, but like also like they got him some help now. So like now like with the Hopkins and like they'll be able to, like they won't be able to focus as much on them. You gotta like respect some other guys.
Yeah, and like Saquon Barkley's a tough one because whenever they get to the goal line, they just let Hurts run it in.
Yeah. So I got Hurts as my QB in that league where we played you, and I got him in 2 of my 3 leagues. But I got Saquon too, so I don't know. It was a good fantasy. I had a lot of injuries though. I'm finally getting healthy. I had like Puka Nacua and Pacheco, Cooper Kupp. Like I've been dealing with a lot of injuries.
Luke will give me shit, but I'm not going to check out of that league. But like I'm pretty sure I'm not going to go to the playoffs in that league. The other leagues I have, I'm doing pretty well, but it was like a work league that like is at the minimum of a buy-in. It's like I think it's $20. So I'm like, fuck. Yeah. Like the one that I'm gonna make money in probably badly. So I need my 5-0 to at least give me my money back for all of the leagues I'm in. Yeah. I was out of all my survivor pools within the first 2 weeks. I had 3.
You couldn't buy back in? Did you buy back in?
You could, but I'm like, it's obviously not a good year for me. I'm not paying attention to it enough or something, Yeah, you just chalk it up and say,
I'm blaming that on my 5-0 record because I'm usually not this bad at picking. Usually I would go like 4-1, 3-2. Now I'm like 1-4, 0-5, 1-4. I'm just not watching as many games, so I'm like going off of vibes, not real scouting.
Yeah, I'm not watching as many games either. Different reasons, but I went out for the first time in, I don't know, like this year in San Francisco, and
what was it like? Weird.
I was like really excited to do it. Like a couple good guys from the Olympic Club. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's the guys I'm with. I don't know if it's San Francisco. I'm pretty sure it's San Francisco. I was just like, and it was Halloween. It was the worst fucking weekend to pick because I didn't realize it. I didn't dress up. I just like went out, and it was mayhem. And I was like, oh man, what am I?
Also, I feel like San Francisco, like Brooklyn, is one of those places that like turns up. It's already like baseline is weird and then like gets weirder during Halloween. I'm like,
it was awful. It was bad.
I was in Philly, which was good. My mom's birthday. So that was good. Took the baby back first trip to Philly.
Wow. Look at you. That's awesome. Easy trip. Obviously the car makes it easier, but I can't imagine like going back to Philly like I would have to with a baby. Like get on the subway, get on New Jersey Transit, get an Uber.
It's so like everything now, just like it's a whole new adventure. Like everything like they used to be fat. Like we're used to traveling and like being like
hop in the car and get it out.
Yeah, AK is a good traveler too, and now it's like it's so many bags, it's so much planning, and like you gotta have the bottles ready and the hot water and the formula. But she was actually great. Like we timed it out well. She slept the whole way there, and then she slept the whole way back. And she was a good time at the party. She was like great at the party. Like she didn't cry at all. My little cousin, she also had a baby. They're like 3 days apart, so they were born.
Oh wow!
So that was their first time meeting. Her baby was freaking out. Like
yeah. So your baby won that.
Yeah, she got that. She's for sure the cool baby of the family right now because like she just is like
until next time. Like
dancing around with grandma and like she was great. So yeah, man, that was the weekend, and then caught up some games. So it was good. It's funny. I didn't realize we had lost that first game when I texted the group. I was like, man, our guys came out looking sharp, like fucking ready to go to see what time the other game.
Overall, like the team, like we led the whole tournament and key assists. Like we were passing, we were moving. I really like the way that team's gelling, but it's also like
we gotta be
you have to win. Like it doesn't matter. You also have to win. And I didn't feel like that first game we came out with any type of a strategy to win. And then we almost lost the game to New Zealand and their team.
I mean, they had
But
some lucky
I was
shots
also
go,
at
but
the
like
same
we
time, I was
definitely
like, at least we came out with a strategy, right? Like it was like get the ball inside.
we found them inside. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's like figure out a way to win. They get a couple twos, and then both games, quarterfinals, semifinals, we at least found a way to win, right? Like that's been the difference. Partizan, Mongolian team, like we didn't find a way to win. We found a way to allow them to win. So like if that's the learning curve, fine. Now again, we give up that loss first game of the tournament probably loses us 20,000 points. If we have that 20,000 points, that we're in 10th place for next year.
Yeah, so I was just looking today too. So we moved up. We're in 11. Obviously, Lausanne's got a lot of points coming off for their rankings in the next couple of weeks. So, all right, so let's recap. So this weekend, we finished second place in the Taipei Challenger. Great challenger. We love Taipei. We got some great hosts over there. They always take care of us. Some up and down games, some nail biters, but we got some wins. We qualified for Shenzhen, which is most important. So we got another world tour. We still are playing in Quinn next weekend in China to get some more FIBA points and hopefully some more money. But we kind of like pretty much solidified ourselves and get to the final and knocking San Juan out, right?
Yeah. So the way you can look at it is thinking about like the wild card. So the way FIBA's structured the World Tour final now, they have 11 spots are guaranteed into the main draw. The 12th position in the World Tour standings goes into a qualifying draw with a wild card host, which will be decided by Hong Kong. I think they're putting their own team in. And then the other wild card goes to the team on the pro circuit with the most wins on the pro circuit for the season. Right now, we're in 13th place for the World Tour standings. We're 2 points behind San Juan. Automatically, if we show up to Shenzhen with 3 players or 4 players, we get automatically 14 points. So we're going to hop over San Juan to get to 12th place. Now, there are teams like Kandava and Hangzhou. Kandava has potentially, they have one more challenger left if they in DeQuinn with us. If they were to go to the World Tour in Shenzhen
to get to
qualify,
Shenzhen,
they're close enough to us in the World Tour standings that, if we shit the bed and they play really well, they could hop us and San Juan for 12th place. They're Kandava, and then Hangzhou has Manama and Neom. Hangzhou is at 96 points.
Left.
They have to do, let's call it semifinals in both events. And again, we would probably still have to shit the bed for them to hop us in 12th place. So there are, our probability, analytics people can get on me, but it's probably between 80 and 90% that we're good on the 12th.
I was gonna say it'll be great to see. It'll be great to see what the percentages are of likelihood for us going.
Yeah, but that takes a lot. Like who's the opponents of Kandava? Who's the opponents of Hangzhou? What's their win probability there? What's their percentage to get, that world tour or get semifinals performance? So we're in a really good spot. Get the 12th place. Now, say shit hits the fan, someone passes us. We're also in first place for the pro circuit wins.
With the wins,
we have 24 wins. Right now with at least 2 more events coming. So we can add to that win total. And then Kandava is the next behind us. They have 20 wins. So they have to kind of win out almost.
Win out to like do it.
Just with DeQuinn and then, Shenzhen. Now, obviously, if Kandava passes us on one of them, they can't pass us on both. So that helps our probability a little bit too. So we're in control of both wild card spots, the 12th place and the wins. Feel pretty good about that. That should, our probability should be at like 95%, but you don't want to, you don't want
to count your eggs before you
in situations and don't want to count your eggs before you hatch. The other part of this, and in my opinion, maybe the most important thing for the future, the long-term future of Princeton, is we're in 11th place in points, FIBA points for the season of the 2024 season only. Take away what's still hanging on from 2023. If you just look at 2024 when the season started till now, we're in 11th place. I think we're about 13,000 below Lausanne and 113,000 below Partizan. If we have now 2 events where we can continue to add points to our total. If we were to do that and get that, and
if we go win DeQuinn, that would get into our top 7 events, right? Or if we go win
Yeah.
Shenzhen or
Basically,
Shenzhen.
so how our points are, we would need to be kind of, 5th or 6th place in Shenzhen World Tour to earn more points.
Yeah.
And then we got to get a 1st or 2nd in Dequin. So a lot to play for. Season's not over. And what that would lead to, if we were to get into the top 10, finishing this year, starting next year, it would give us the ability to be hard seeded, which
get our names back in the jersey.
Yeah, it gets our names back on the jersey for sure, which is nice for the guys. But more importantly, it gives us two world tours to start the season, as well as 2 challengers. So having 4 events for next year to look forward to, in February or March versus, 1 or 2 does a lot for building a schedule, does a lot for planning, does a lot for knowing, the opportunities you're going to get, and you can kind of build around that.
Yeah, man. I think it's cool to even just hear you talk about it, because I think what FIBA's done a really good job at is like creating a sense of urgency and games that matter, even with a lot of games. Like our season's long and you play a lot of games, but kind of when you really peel it back, and if you're trying to win a good amount of money, the top teams on the tour, they're aware of all these stuff and all these rules. And really getting into the top 10 is how you ensure that, your team has the best chance to get to the final, making bonuses at the end of the year, getting events, continue continuity of your team. Like you were just saying, the rollover of the points and like everything that we're doing this season is going to help us be seeded for the 2025 season. So, assuming that we turn over the same players and things like that, or at least some of the same players and stuff. So,
yeah. So the best way to look at it from like a sports perspective, you can't relate it to like the NBA, right? Like the only thing you could do is you do bad, you get the number 1 pick. That's not really relatable. But in soccer, where you finish in your league, where you finish in the previous season qualifies you for, the UEFA Cup and stuff like that. So potentially sometimes, depending on where you do with the basketball and like Euro League, like that can come into play. So that's a better kind of analogy when looking at this type of stuff. So your previous year lead to your next year for a lot of this stuff. You kind of feel for like a team like San Juan. If we pass them, they haven't had the win total that they need to get into the World Tour final. We, our North American teammates or, counterparts would kind of be pushed out of this situation. And now, you're looking at for the top win total, Condava has 20, Dusseldorf has 19, Hangzhou has 16, Harlem has 16. Harlem, one more event. Condava's kind of in the driver's seat.
At the end of the year. I think they're like,
Condava's kind of in the driver's seat with that. But, also you think about who you're rooting for a little bit, because whoever wins that win total or the 12th spot, wherever we don't win, that's who we play in the final. Right? You got the wild card, you got that. So, I mean, we won't really control any of that, but, we have a vested interest in seeing who gets there.
Yeah, man, it's been an exciting year, and we're coming down the stretch to the finish. We know, like, you can count on one hand how many events we got left this year. It's been, up and down season. Guys are starting to kind of pick it back up a little bit, get a little bit of continuity. It'll be exciting to see how we do in Shenzhen as well. Before that, Dequin, but, Shenzhen especially, because that's the one where we, have the opportunity to get the most points, gain the most points, I think can propel us into that 10th spot if we do really well. And just we got a lot to prove on the tour still. Our guys haven't really made much noise, I think, in a Masters event. I think we've been as far as, a semifinal this year, right?
Yeah, we've been stuck on semifinals for the past couple, since 2019, basically. We haven't gotten to a final of a World Tour final since then.
Yeah.
Would be nice for the guys to kind of see some progress. A couple of the cool things that are going on with us, I think, to note is, one, we passed the 100,000 prize money barrier this year. So probably going on, other than the COVID years, 2020, 2021, and 2022 even, there was kind of a shorter one, but I think we went over 100,000 that year. So basically 5 out of 7 years, the other 2 being COVID, we've broken $100,000 in prize money. We continue that streak. That's a nice thing for the guys. Last 2 tournaments, the guys have made 22,000 total, 12 and 10. Henry Caruso, they give out, and we don't talk about this a lot because we talk team, but Henry Caruso's 5th in player value.
Yeah, I saw that he
on
finished this
tour.
this tournament as the top player value. Is that come with a
It
Monterey prize too, or no?
No, it does not, or else we'd had a couple guys. We've had some guys do some really well. Austin's done some really good
Yeah.
things. Damon, Henry,
Robbie used to be
but
pretty efficient too, I remember.
yeah, Kareem sometimes would get up there, but Henry is 5th on the whole tour. And there are 2 guys that are probably, I think it's Kojic and Donker from Rifa that have kind of ensured they'll be top 2. But 3rd place is up for grabs. And at the end of the season, the top 3 guys with player value do earn a prize in terms of cash prize. So Henry's got a little bit to play for there too, which is exciting to see him kind of some individual stuff, but he couldn't do that without his teammates. So that's been
Wouldn't
cool.
have thought that Donker is the top scorer on the tour so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's all games played, right? You play a lot of games. You have that, guys like Oob have made it a point this year. Teams like Oob have made it a point to sit certain players,
Yeah.
and
They
give
got
guys
more blue
breaks.
tapes now.
Yeah, so Donker actually sat this past weekend. Rifa didn't have a great weekend without him, but yeah, he's played almost everything, so he just needed a break.
Crazy, man.
Damon Huffman is 1 point away from breaking 1,000.
Will he do it?
Huh?
Said, will he do it?
If he plays, he should.
I talked to those guys briefly a little bit afterwards. Told them congratulations, making it to the final and stuff. Yeah, I just can't believe Damon's still playing. He's so old. Hitting game winners and, needed every bucket too this weekend. Looking around the tour too, man. It was the Abu Dhabi Masters as well this weekend. Had Amsterdam go home with the top spot in that. Miami coming along, new look Miami. We were texting a little bit about that. What are your thoughts on this new look Miami squad coming down the stretch too? Yeah, at some point you might see those guys down the line.
I mean, they just have a lot of resiliency. Like, they don't change the way they play when it's game point, when it's they're still taking the same shots, right? And they put a lot of pressure on defenses. They got all their guys can shoot, some being a little streakier than others, but they put pressure on the defense, and they have like a good attitude throughout the game. Like, it's kind of pretty even, stoic.
Yeah.
You can tell they played together a lot. Like, they're sharing the ball with each other.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been interesting just to see like how they have like picked up the pieces pretty quickly. Like inheriting the number 1 team in the world spot it's definitely a gift, as we just talked about all the different types of things we're trying to do to crack into those standings and stuff. But to those guys' credit, it wasn't like an easy thing they had to step into, and they represented super well. Got to the championship game one time playing with 3 guys, Mitch and James. I think them like at the rim is something unique too that you don't see a lot in FIBA 3x3 guys, as far as like athleticism, being able to protect the rim and fly around and guard multiple guys and stuff. So
yeah, I mean, if you look at it, since they've started, they finished second 3 times and they finished first once. So they've come out very, kind of hot and just kind of built on what they built before.
Ready to go.
Omaha, it's the same team, a little bit reincarnated, and they're just playing with a lot of confidence. I feel like a little bit of it's like they got nothing to lose. A little bit like
no, it's definitely house money, man, for sure, for those guys, which is fun to see. And then we were talking a little bit about New York Harlem earlier too. So we got our other American teams that are they've been back on the tour, same guys for the most part with Damo, Marcel, Kadani.
I feel like they finally found their groove. Like when they they didn't change players, but their players changed a little bit, right? Like they had different strengths, and they had to realize that they weren't the same type of team. They can't play the exact same way, and I feel like they finally gotten like kind of comfortable in their own skin a little bit, and they're like playing a little bit freer. A little like us. Like they've chosen tournaments that during world tours, and you take advantage of the opportunity when the top 10 teams aren't necessarily there.
I mean, look, man, like there's strategy to this stuff too. And there needs to be, to be frank, like organizational strategy too. If you actually want to, be on tour, break into that, especially when you're not a federation-backed team. So, a lot of what you guys hear us talk about on here is like certain teams are backed by their federation. So the Dutch Federation, USA Basketball backs Team Miami, Lithuania. Most of these teams are backed by their government or national, governing body federation of basketball. And so having more resources, a certain allocation of tournaments, if you're ranked in the top 10, that makes it a lot easier to kind of be there and have some success on tour. When you are seeded for events, you play against lower seeded teams, newer teams, you have the opportunity to go further. So all these like little things matter. And for us as a team that's not, owned or run by a federation, there's a lot that kind of goes into it as you're transitioning players. It makes it really challenging sometimes. So it's cool to see those guys kind of like still around, still figuring it out, as a team that's not backed by a federation and, still cracking that top 25 and, we'll be around for a little while longer. So,
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the top 25, there really isn't that many teams. Just bring up the list real quick. Like, tell me a team that you think has transitioned players.
they really have. So I was kind of like laughing to myself because this week, looking at Dan Quinn, we play against Team Hong Kong, who has the sweetest Latvian man.
Yeah.
On
The
their
mayor.
team. The mayor of Latvia with the
I
best
went
voice
to
in
when
all
we
of,
went to Latvia. A host said that he was considered after they had won the gold medal. It was in 2021. He was voted sexiest man of Latvia,
Agnes
which I'm
Gabaris.
pretty sure was a lie. But this host had a huge crush on.
Yeah.
Greatest voice on tour, probably.
He does have a great voice, though. A crazy.
Should join Boys to Men like this and just do their talks.
Yeah, so we got them this weekend. But so I say that because like it's hard. Like once you get off of those teams, he's no longer probably one of the top, 6 or 10 Latvian players now. So, he's playing on a Chinese team in Hong Kong. Like it's when you get off these teams, it becomes really difficult. So looking at the list of top 25,
let's just call it what it is too. He is a mercenary. He's a hired gun. He's getting paid
absolutely.
to coach that team, to try to help develop that team. I don't know what his, does he have to live there? Does he have to, is he there for a little bit? But he's just collecting a check. He's not like going out to win tournaments. He's trying to develop federations.
Team or federation. Yeah. So you got to kind of like be this hybrid player coach, when you get out of that. But looking at the top 10, if we're going off.
Let's just go down the list. Oob.
Yeah.
1, they're not a federation backed team. 2, they've never done a transition. This is kind of the first successful. This is kind of the first successful rendition of them. Now they've taken players that have had success from other teams, but they have never had to transition new players in.
When Oop first started, it was Dejan and who else that moved over from Savage. Yes,
but they took an existing team, which is Vibraze, which had Strahinja and Brankovic, and put them on a team. What people don't really remember is Brankovic was Savage. He was on Le Mans before he was on this team.
I didn't. Forget about that.
So first year that Le Mans was of pro circuit, Brankovic was on the team, and then they replaced him with Savage, and Brankovic kind of went over with Strahinja, created his own team. They were a top 20 team, weren't having too much success. Then they added the Novi Sad guys that had split off, and then this successful rendition of Oob has kind of matured.
Okay. So we got Ubi. Next, we have
the Dutch.
Amsterdam.
They have transitioned. They are a federation team. None of those players are what started. They are one of the, I would say, models of seeing and transitioning players develop.
Was Arvin on one of the original teams? No.
Arvin didn't start playing until after 2019.
Oh, wow.
So the first event he ever went to was the World Tour Final 2019. They brought him so he could see the event, be part of it, deciding if he was going to pursue it because he was getting done with 5-on-5. Arvin has played against Damon in 5-on-5, myself in 5-on-5 in the Netherlands because we all played there. Henry in 5-on-5.
So you're saying he's
in 5-on-5. Arvin was a very good 5-on-5 Dutch player on the national team, and then he transitioned similar to Worthy.
All right, then we got Miami and Amsterdam, 5,000 points apart right now. Tour standings, very close.
Yeah. So Miami, obviously, they've been around very small. I mean, I guess you could maybe call this a little bit of a transition from Kareem and Canyon, but it's not really a transition because it's just Omaha.
Yeah,
you've never had to change players. You've never had to retire players.
No, they're kind of like I would almost just put them aside right now. They haven't even been around long enough. This is not their second year really in existence. So you can't really call it a transition, still starting. But
if it's your first rendition of a successful team, then you haven't had to transition players. You've just transitioned bad players for good players.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with Paris. This is their first
it's
team that's in the top 10. They've hung around last year, but they've continued to add better pieces. But that doesn't mean you're retiring good pieces. I think you have to retire good pieces and winning pieces, and then still maintain your success level.
All right, then
That would be my definition of transitioning.
Well, I agree. We're more so just looking at too, what are how many teams are not federation backed? We're privately ran, player ran teams in this top 10, top 25. Then we go Paris, federation team. Yeah,
Rifa. Rifa is a federation backed team, but they also have a private sponsorship. But they're Belgium.
Yeah, Belgium.
I
wonder what they'll be next year.
Huh?
I wonder what they'll be next year.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, they've had a successful season. I just don't know if it's moved the needle for any players on Manama, the country, right? They haven't got anything out of it.
Yeah.
So
and then also they're very close with Vienna. They're 5,000 points apart. There's a nice little jumble at 5, 6, 7 with Vienna and Ronda Barris.
And Partizan.
And Partizan in there, yeah. They're all within 40, 50,000 points. So which is basically an event.
Yeah. I mean, it's a win. You win a game, you pass somebody. Vienna Federation back. This is their first rendition of their successful team. Ronda Barris, same thing. I mean, they've added some new pieces, but it's still the same core. Partizan, same core. Privately owned, same core. Will be interesting to see what they do. Le Mans is probably the one team. They still have the same core. So it would be interesting to see if they ever finally had to transition off Koiz or Basic. How can they maintain the success, or do they fold? It's a question that
and they've always kind of been the team where people it seems like the Serbian players hit stop for a bit, and then Stojakic was older brother Stojakic, Stefan. He was on Le Mans years ago. Obviously, Le Mans now has some of the Partizan guys from last year. I think Dusan has played a couple tournaments. Bullet, right? Then you have he stood up with Le Mans once or twice.
Yeah, he did it, kind of in the early season of this year. I don't know if he was basically just doing it to help him out, bridge the gap. I feel like he didn't seem like they ever had a full agreement to have him participate this season. He was really getting ready for the big three, and he's retired, but from the big three, but
and then Lausanne.
So Lausanne has had many iterations, but this is the first really successful one. And again, same core. Does this team exist when Gilles decide to stop, playing? Are they going to take a managerial role? Right now, they're player managers. When is a team going to have guys go to manager, replace players, and keep? Will that happen, or are we the only team that's trying to do that?
Well, I think we're also, there's not really a ton of models out there, right? So, you look at a lot of people go into coaching, they'll go and coach a Zadero, right? I think he's more of a coach than a player, who played for what did they used to be called?
Novi Sad.
Yeah. He used to play for Novi Sad, and then, the Serbian team. Now he's involved with the federation and has a role there. Serbian 3x3 Academy, all that stuff. But a lot of people go into coaching, but not necessarily the managerial part or trying to transition the team. So I think we might be the only ones right now. We'll see how,
Yeah. And it seems to me, and we could be wrong. I don't know how they're structured, but Zadero's again, hire me wherever. I'll help whoever wants to be helped as long as you're paying me. It's not I am dedicated to this one organization. I am building this. You want me as your coach? Pay me the most money, and I'll do it.
Hey man, money talks. Everybody's trying to figure out how to.
It gets kind of watered down from there. There's no one that's kind of trying to do this. So I think we're pioneering this, at least from my perspective. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see, as these other teams start to get a little older, can they transition their core, right? You keeping the same core is still, kind of running with the same thing, just like the Warriors. Can they keep it when Steph finally leaves? You have the same core, but what happens when they all leave?
I don't know, man. Transitions are tough. We had a whole new player. We got a new player in our team.
So We've been flirting with Justin for kind of 2 years now. He had gotten an opportunity in Japan. So he played, first time he ever played with us was he played in the Sin City Classic with kind of a second team that we put together of former Princeton players, friends of the team that we think could be potential players later, definitely younger players. Justin's brother, just for continuity purposes, is Ivy League Player of the Year last year, was Ivy League Player of the Year last year at Princeton University, from Chicago, knows a couple people that I'm really close with. Zaire knows Tim Doyle. Their families are close. Justin played at William & Mary, very good career there, graduated in 3 years, and then did a graduate year at North Carolina. Played in the last season. Roy Williams was the head coach, was kind of their sixth man. Cole Anthony was the North Carolina's best player that year.
Yeah.
Justin played a couple years in Europe, but William & Mary has always run, when Justin was there, variations of the Princeton offense. He knows how to cut, knows how to play without the ball. Felt like this would be a really good fit. We just didn't know when it would happen. I personally thought it would probably be 2025 that we kind of introduced him to stuff, got him to play in some more domestic events, had him have some success, and then go from there. Well, there was a need in 2024. Riley Grigsby leaves to go play in Europe. We're kind of, figuring out exactly how we want to use the last spot. Couple things happen in terms of, guys being injured or sick, not being able to make an event with some of the veteran guys that maybe we would have considered. And we talked about it, and we were like, we need a little jolt of energy, someone with a lot of, spunk, I guess you could say, like someone that just is bringing good energy, wants to be there, is committed, like thinking long term. He's 27 years old, and we just liked his energy. We like,
Yeah.
He was probably the easiest person I've ever had to deal with getting a Chinese visa. He was really on it. That excites me personally because I have to do a lot of that work. So got everything done. He was ready. He was like, whenever you need me, I'm ready to go. We decided that this little 3-event stretch could be a really good time for him to play with our guys, give him an opportunity. We didn't think it could get any worse from the first 4 tournaments we played in the second half. So we said, let's try it. And I think it's been really successful. The guys have said he's been a breath of fresh air. Played really, really well in Macau. Shooting value was through the roof. Great cutter. Kind of still learning. But I think, if you watch the games, he's getting like a steal every game. He's getting his hands on passes. He's playing really hard, and you can tell that he's enjoying it, and the guys are enjoying playing with him. This past event, again, we had led the tournament in key assists. I think it's not a coincidence because of the group we have, that they're moving without the ball. They're playing with each other. So it's been good, and I think this will, continue for a long time.
Yeah, I'm excited to have him. I only got to see him play a little bit in Vegas last year, and he's been able to kind of show up, make an immediate impact, which has been really awesome to see. I think he, had been dedicated to putting the time in, came out to San Francisco, spent some time with you and Henry earlier to, get some reps in before the events. And now that he's actually at the events, like you said, he's an awesome cutter. He had a really sick pass one of the games coming off a screen to Henry, kind of like right by the guy's head, on a screen and roll or something. But yeah, he can shoot the ball. You can see he's still learning. There's a lot of stuff, the kind of nuances of 3x3, timing. He plays super hard, but, in 3x3, you also got to know when to kind of pace yourself and use the spots where you can to get some rest and stuff. So it'll be exciting to see how he continues to evolve and get better as he becomes more experienced in the game. And then, again, they've been using each other a little bit better, I think, these last few games, the last few tournaments. Guys using each other to get open shots. We got a lot of guys who are really good cutters, Damon, Henry. We smoked a couple layups towards the end of those games, that in its last event that were set up by great cuts, though. I know Jerome had one, Henry had one on a wide open back door. So, encouraged that even though we've had some close games, even some games we might have dropped that we think we should have gotten, we're moving in the right direction. We're getting really good shots. Guys are playing together and playing really hard. So, it's a welcome addition. And then like we've been talking about as well, as far as transition, we see this as hopefully a piece that we can build around in the future, as he's looking to hang up his 5-on-5, career and do this full go. So exciting time for Princeton 3x3, man.
Anyone that's willing to spend the first 3 weeks of their 3-on-3 career in Asia bouncing around is committed enough in my book. I'll tell you that right now.
Hey man, I mean, commitment start. Like, I feel like that's one of the hardest things to judge or to measure when you're trying to suss out for new guys. Because, like, we can obviously look at enough tape or watch guys play to figure out whether or not they'd be a good enough fit. The basketball part you kind of figure out, but there's so many other parts that go into 3x3, the travel, time spent in hotels, sharing rooms, like that's the stuff. And like how committed guys are, that's the stuff that you really can't measure until you jump in with a guy. So
yeah, you got to put them in the fire, and that's hard because there's not a lot of room for error with how the roster is structured with FIBA 3x3. So you don't get many times to just try guys out. So you kind of, I think we're getting better as having conversations with people under kind of how they talk and answers they give to really understand, okay, this is how this person sounded when they're really committed, or this is how this person sounded in comparison, and we knew he wasn't in it for the right reasons or whatever.
Yeah, man, it's a little tricky, but I want to say shout out to you because during the broadcast in Macau, Kyle Montgomery said GM of the year, whoever got Justin Pierce signed. So that'd be you. Yeah, we can click that up. But when I was watching the game live, I think it was the game he had like 11 or 12 points or something. What did he have, 14 points one game?
I have no idea. I think he had 11.
Yeah.
He played really well. That was a nice win for us.
Yeah. So anytime you get Kyle all excited and going crazy on the telecast, you're doing something good. So and yeah, putting the early feelers out to his brother right now. His brother is basically averaging a double-double at Princeton. So
yeah. Get the Bash brothers together.
Would love to have them, man. And Butler brothers, freaking what do you call it? Pierce brothers. Let's go. Henry doesn't have any brothers. Henry's only got sisters.
Yeah,
right?
Henry's a sister guy.